Hello and welcome to our daily Devo for Tuesday the 17th of October today. Tuesday the 17th of October. Our Devo for the day is entitled The Deeper Meaning of the Two Feeding Miracles. You remember yesterday we looked at the 3,000 and earlier in this series we looked at at 4,000, and then earlier we looked at the feeding of the 5,000. This one is covered in Matthew 16 and Mark 8, and the verse given for us is Matthew 16, verse 12. Then they understood that he was not telling them to guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The deeper meaning of the two feeding miracles. Taken separately, each of the two feeding miracles teaches that Jesus is compassionate and he's powerful. Taken together, they teach a profound lesson on the geography of forgiveness. The key phrase in these verses can be as confusing to us as it was to the disciples. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees, Matthew 16:6. Jesus is using yeast as a metaphor for the teaching of the Jewish religious teachers that threaten to permeate and disable the future work of the disciples. That quote-unquote yeast assumed that the forgiveness of sins and membership in the kingdom was ethnically limited. This mistaken notion shows up in another food metaphor. Within Judaism, many visualize the coming of the kingdom as a great feast enjoyed with the founders of the Jewish faith, Matthew 8:11. But they presume Gentiles were not on the guest list. This limiting of the kingdom is the yeast, quote unquote yeast, addressed by the two feeding miracles. At first glance, the similarities between the feeding of the 4,000 and 5,000 stand out. Thousands flocked to Jesus, Thousands flocked to Jesus in remote locations, received his teaching, and were then fed by the miraculous multiplication of a small amount of food. These similarities make it clear that Jesus treated those present at both miracles in precisely the same way. But who was present? This is where the miracles differ. We sense it first in the location of the miracles. Jesus fed the 5,000 on the northwest side of the Sea of Galilee near Bethsaida. The 4,000 were fed on the east side of the Sea of Galilee in the Decapolis. Generally speaking, these locations were home to different ethnic groups. Northwest was Jewish, and east was Gentile. The second difference is the number of basketfuls of leftovers collected. In the case of the 5,000, there were 12, an ethnic marker for Jews, Joshua 3:12, Matthew 19:28. In the case of the 4,000, the number was 7, an ethnic marker for Gentiles, Deuteronomy 7:1. This means the feeding of the 5,000 was done for Jews and the feeding of the 4,000 for Gentiles. And that is why Jesus revisited both events in this narrative. He wants to be sure that the 12 get the point. The quote-unquote yeast, the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees, limited the kingdom and forgiveness to the Jews alone. But Jesus used the two feeding miracles to show that the geography of forgiveness extended to all shores of the lake, and so included all ethnic groups, for the Jews as well as for the Gentiles. This is something Jesus kept dealing with over and over again, because the Jews at the time, and still a lot of people still today, see themselves as superior, see themselves as God's favorites, God's on our side. And that was something, if I'm remembering correctly, that Lincoln dealt with in the Civil War. The South thought God was on their side, and the North thought God was on their side. And I believe it was Abraham Lincoln who said, "I just hope we're on God's side." This is where the world was then. It is still where the world is today, and one of the biggest hindrances to leading folks to Christ and gaining the opportunity to talk about Him, to share Him, is when there's bigotry in our heart, when we feel that we're superior, when we feel that our particular color of skin is superior to other colors of skin, when we believe that our culture is better than another culture. That was actually something that somewhat damaged different periods in mission history, in that my race was going to come to your race because we know so much more, because we're smarter, because we don't have the same kind of ignorant beliefs that you have. And it damaged the sharing of the gospel, that's for sure. And it still hurts the witness of the church, does it not? When we have people claiming to be followers of Christ, and yet at the same time they align themselves with groups that are known for their bigotry, known for their white superiority, as it were. It's a sad situation. Jesus keeps trying over and over again when he sits with a woman at a Samaritan well, when he tells a story where the hero of the story is a Samaritan, when he heals people who are not Jewish, when he raises people from the dead. We need to understand this so badly. Jesus Christ. Who does not know John 3:16? God so loved the world. And the result of him loving the world is that someday there will be people from every tribe, every tongue, every people, every nation around the throne singing praises to the Lamb of God. If you're bigoted now, you are not going to like heaven very much. It's Jesus battled it. We still battle it. It's just part of the human fallen condition. Even people with same skin colors find something to not like about other people that have the same skin color. It's just part of who we are. Coming to Christ should change that. Coming to Christ and being thankful that he saved you should make you want to pass on that good news to others, irregardless of politics, of skin color, of culture, of language, all of the different roadblocks we put in front of our reaching out and being friendly with others. Those have to be done away with so that others, it's a rich experience to know people of other cultures. It really is. Blessings to you today. I'll stop rambling. Blessings.